The ocean. The violent energy of nature cannot be tamed. Even the largest ships travel at the mercy of the wind and waves. No boat on Earth is so strong that a sea storm can't destroy it. And for even the most seasoned sailors, the ship is all that stands between life and death.
All I could do was, each time we surfaced, was to tell her when to take a deep breath and hang on.
Once in the water, few survive. Journey with us aboard sea-tossed ships into the turbulent world where storms are born, nature at its fiercest. As long as man has braved the ocean, the sea has given and taken away.
We think of the violence, we think of the drama of the oceans, but in its simplest terms, what it's really doing is providing us with this very moderate climate, which really was the key for the development of life on Earth.
Leading oceanographer Bill Patzert has first-hand experience with the tempestuous nature of the sea, whose great power starts with the warmth of the sun.
The great ocean currents and the massive weather systems that move around the Earth, their primary role is to take heat from the tropics to the poles, and in the process drive the very violent weather systems.
The Pacific Ocean is normally one of the world's least violent. The islands of New Zealand are nestled in the Pacific's southwest waters. They are a pleasure sailor's mecca. Alluring enough to keep Australians Robin and Bill Forbes island hopping year after year aboard their beloved 40-foot sailboat, Ramtha. The Forbes are confident sailors. They join a regatta headed for Tonga, an island far to the north of New Zealand. 95% of the time, the world's oceans are tamed. That's what the Forbes expect.
And they picked the middle of the year because usually it's the best time of the year as far as the weather goes. In fact, I think before we left, we were told that we'd probably end up having to motor most of the way because it was expected light winds.
But an unseasonable storm is building. As the Forbes sail for Tonga, high and low pressure systems 600 miles to the north are clashing. When air masses collide, bringing differences in temperature and moisture together, atmospheric instability and storms result. The movement of air around the globe performs a vital function. It redistributes the world's heat. Warm, moist air from the ocean's tropics rises and expands, creating wind that moves toward the poles, where it cools and descends. These winds push the ocean's great waters in vast circuits called gyres, which also transfer heat. The wind causes waves to form as well. Although many people believe that waves move water across the ocean surface, waves also propel water downwards in a slow, circular motion.
We can think of the atmosphere as really, it's a giant ocean of air moving all around us. And what you'll see is the ocean of air gripping the surface of the ocean of water and providing us with these small little waves, which we call cat paws. And these waves, which start just a few inches tall, can build to tens of feet, and eventually, in extreme cases, to 50 to 100 feet. The larger the wave, the stronger the storm.
Off the island of Fiji, a storm is battering the coastline with powerful waves and 100-mile-per-hour winds. Then continuing on a collision course with the Forbes and their sailboat.
We heard over the radio with the weather forecast that there was a low up off Fiji. This thing was coming down our way.
I quite frankly thought, oh, well, it'll head off to Australia, and it's in the middle of winter, so it won't develop into anything.
But the intensifying storm doesn't change course and doesn't slow down.
The wind was picking up, and we were aware that the storm was coming our way. And we just took all the precautions necessary with reefing the sails and getting the boat ready.
Within hours, the ferocious storm reaches them and engulfs their boat.
These waves now, like the steam train, come over the boat. You look up and here's this breaking wave coming down at you.
Immense waves the size of a 6-story building pummel their boat.
This boat is about 55 feet from water at the top there. We could see that the waves were coming at us equivalent at the top of the mast.
The regatta yachts are helpless in the face of these waves. A distress call goes out.
Yeah, there are 7 yachts in distress in South Pacific. No, another one.
New Zealand Navy Commander Larry Robbins receives the Mayday call and gives orders for a new course. But finding the precise location of a few sailboats in 9 million square miles of chaotic ocean is a monumental task. The Navy vessel heads directly into the heart of the storm.
You just looked around and you could just see all this water breaking. The word that I've often used to describe it is horrendous. It was dreadful weather, really was.
But on board Ramtha, Bill and Robin have no idea help is on the way.
There's nothing anybody else could do for you at that time. As far as we're concerned, we were out there by ourselves.
After enduring a sleepless night in a South Pacific storm, hundreds of miles from land, an Australian couple is growing more anxious.
I'd been up pretty well all through the night and trying to keep the boat upright and steering it. And I guess I was buggered.
A New Zealand Navy ship is headed in Bill Forbes' direction. The storm is also affecting Commander Larry Robbins' rescue effort.
Everything was creaking and groaning and it was really very monotonous. No one was getting any sleep.
The two vessels are just 15 miles apart, but the cresting waves hide the sailboat from the Navy's radar. The ferocity of the waves the captain faces is determined by several factors.
3 key ingredients are fetch, the area over which a storm will blow, the duration, how long it blows, and the largest waves are dependent on the strength of the wind. So it's fetch, duration, and intensity.
In the midst of the immense waves, a mysterious light appears.
I suddenly sort of looked down and around and there's green light everywhere. And it's not like a lightning flash.
Miles away on the Navy ship, an officer thinks he sees a light in the distance.
I was called to the bridge by the officer of the watch. He said that he'd seen what he thought was a flare.
Commander Robbins sends out a message to try and learn the source of the light.
We put out a call on the VHF. We didn't expect any response. And as I turned away from the VHF set, suddenly it crackled into life.
Boy, this is Ramtha. We've got you visual at the moment.
By coincidence, the strange light has put them in communication. Neither Robbins nor Forbes can explain the light. Perhaps it was a meteorological phenomenon, such as ball lightning.
Okay, the range is about 1.5 miles to that yacht. Come right to 275. Very good, sir.
As the Navy ship approaches, Commander Robbins tells them to prepare to abandon ship. Robin Forbes hesitates. Ramtha is their home. It holds everything they own. But moments later, an enormous wave nearly flips the boat. Their rudder is disabled.
We're saying no thanks, and this wave comes along and gives us a kick in the britches and says, take the ride.
Commander Robbins prepares a plan of action, but he doesn't dare bring the boats too close together.
2 PLB on board, 1 low, 1 female.
We were rolling so much that I really felt that we'd probably roll on top of them.
Commander Robbins devises an ingenious plan. The Navy cutter will fire a line carrying 2 harnesses to Robin and Bill.
We want you to put these harnesses on. We'll hoot the horn, and we want you to jump into the water, and then we'll pull you on board. Sounds simple, doesn't it, Over?
I thought, you got to be kidding.
But there is no other option. It takes 5 attempts before a line finally lands across Ramtha's deck. Steadying herself as best she can, Robin inches her way down the deck.
I can see one. There's supposed to be 2 on board.
She struggles to her knees and pulls in the line. Then, up on her feet, she staggers her way across the deck, grasping tightly to their lifeline. Bill helps her into her harness.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to get into a harness on my own, so Bill put his on and helped me into mine.
Then as he reached up to tighten the toggle so that Robin wouldn't slip, Mono-Eye took this tremendous roll. We could see, almost in slow motion, the tension coming out of this line and working its way across towards Ramtha. It could have only been a few seconds, but it was absolutely slow motion. We saw them bounce 4 times down the deck of the catamaran, and then they just fell in the water.
I'm looking up through the water, and I have to admit that that was the time when I guess the thought of drowning went through, but the other mechanism says, well, no, I haven't learned all I've learned, just to drown out here in the middle of the ocean.
The deck crew saw that they were in the water and just pulled them in.
Bill and Robin are dragged through the water towards the ship, but over a minute has passed.
All I could do was, each time we surfaced, was to tell her when to take a deep breath and hang on.
And the next time we come up, we're there looking up at the Mono-Eye. And then we're on board.
There was a spontaneous cheer because everybody was thoroughly relieved when we got this couple. But there was this tremendous feeling of humility because it could very well have been any one of us in that sort of situation.
Bill and Robin have survived their ordeal without serious injury. But as they depart, the Forbes realize that they may never see their beloved home again.
We really didn't even have time to see where Ramtha was, but that was it.
I felt that the boat probably we wouldn't see it again.
10 days after the South Pacific storm, the Monowai crew is honored for its daring rescue, while surfers rush to the beaches of California. Huge waves are rolling in. It's the same phenomenal energy that almost killed Bill and Robin Forbes thousands of miles away.
They're really the international travelers of the ocean, these giant swells, and they're really transferring energy all across the globe. The oceans and the atmosphere are the essence of life on Earth.
But the Pacific has one more miracle in store for the Forbes.
And it was about a fortnight after we were taken off the boat that I heard that ramps had been found.
The boat turns up just 80 miles from Bill and Robin's original destination, the island of Tonga.
It was very good. I mean, we'd given up, or I suppose that we'd looked at the fact that, okay, we'd lost it and now it was back.
Aboard their home once again, the Forbes set sail for Australia. Their odyssey with the worst that the sea's wind and waves can deliver is behind them.
I guess I don't blame the ocean. I mean, it's all just experience. Bill used to say, all experience is good experience. There's going to be times again when the weather comes up, but I'll deal with that when it happens.
The frozen wasteland of the Greenland coast is covered with ice 12 months a year. This part of the North Atlantic can strike fear in the heart of even the toughest mariner.
These areas are very hostile areas. There can be storms there any time of the year. And these icebergs, they break off the glaciers. They flow into the sea, and then by the movement of the water, the waves, they break off. And then they go with the current, they drift down south.
Ed Ank is the skipper of a ship that is in iceberg country in the fall of 1995. The waters are called the Denmark Straits between Greenland and Iceland.
I wasn't very happy going back there. You know about the Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong. But then again, somebody has to do the job.
Ank's vessel is a floating research laboratory named after explorer James Cook's ship, Resolution. She's 470 feet long, 70 feet wide, with extra steel in her hull to handle Arctic conditions. Iceberg spotters keep a lookout from the deck of the navigation bridge, where Ank studies his charts of the ice-ridden coast with his second mate and chief navigator, Mike Horton.
We were there approximately 20 nautical miles off the Greenland coast. We gave it the name Iceberg Alley. It was quite impressive. These bergs, they can be several million tons. You don't want to get hit by it.
The results are catastrophic at the slowest of speeds. And that was our primary concern the whole time we were up there, was ice encroachment. You're in a very remote area of the world if anything does happen. If an iceberg hits you, you know, the chances are slim and none of getting to town.
Everybody knows the story about the Titanic.
Ank's vessel conducts important research into why the crust of the Earth is pulling apart below these freezing waters. The ship has a massive drilling rig on board for pulling up core samples from the sea floor. The sedimentary samples obtained by the research vessel will shed new light on the Earth's distant past. There are 200 hands on board, from roughnecks who work the drill operation to scientists that handle the core samples. Once cut up, the cores are analyzed. The process allows scientists to verify and challenge scientific assumptions about the geologic evolutions of the planet. But now, something is approaching the ship that will put all their lives in jeopardy.
I can remember watching the barometer drop maybe from around 1,010 or 15 right down into the low 900s in just a matter of 12 to 18 hours. When you have that much barometric drop in such a short period of time, the winds are extremely strong.
What's coming is a nor'easter. Born in the tropical Atlantic, this monster is feeding off the warm waters of the Gulf Stream that flows northward toward Greenland and the research ship's position. The nor'easter arrives packing winds as fierce as hurricanes. These storms are more dreaded by mariners because they can last several days. As the storm intensifies, one of the researchers on board begins to record the event with her video camera.
And I think we were experiencing winds very close to and maybe a little in excess of 100 miles an hour.
And the waves were so high, 60, 70 feet, and the only thing what we could do was what I told the guys, go with the flow. We just go with the flow. Wow! Look at this, look at this, look at this.
Captain Ank's nickname is the Flying Dutchman, a skipper of myth, doomed to forever sail rough seas. Ank's been with the ship every one of her 20 years.
I'm impressed. Doing a great job.
The problem is that if you have high waves, the smaller icebergs, you can't detect them anymore on the radar because you don't see them in the waves. Another problem is that if you have such a violent storm, there's so much foam in the air that your visibility is restricted.
Ank's one advantage is his ship's dynamic positioning system. Created to hold her steady over a drilling site, the ship has 14 propellers. It's the only thing keeping the ship from wavering off course. But at full speed ahead, with a thrust of 19,000 horsepower, the force of the storm is pushing the ship backwards.
We're doing about 2.5 knots backwards with the propellers going 100% forwards.
These waves were so high and powerful that easily they could move the bow and bring the ship broadside.
If a ship turns broadside to the waves, it risks flipping over.
When a ship is lying broadside to waves or in the trough, there is the potential for a capsize to occur.
7.06 seconds for 3 that time, so it's about the same.
Naval architect Jerry Stensgaard uses a wave tank to test vessel models in simulated high seas. He works at the Ocean Engineering Center in British Columbia. The greatest risk of capsizing is when the rocking of a boat and the movement of the waves sync up.
If it were broadside and the wave frequencies match the rolling frequencies, that is a situation which could be very dangerous just because of the cumulative rolling effect, which could ultimately result in capsize.
There she goes.
Understanding the danger, Captain Ank cannot turn back. He holds course in the howling storm for 50 sleepless hours. The nearest safe port is almost 2,000 miles away.
You were looking at walls of water. The bow comes up and you see only air. The bow comes down and then the waves were breaking over the bow and the deck was totally covered with foam. And then the window on the bridge got smashed in. There was all this wind and water blowing inside and I saw that I was up to my knees in water.
The sheer force of the wave has crashed through the bridge's bulletproof glass. As all hands rush to deal with what has become a crisis situation, salt water has damaged vital navigation equipment.
Bad thing about it, that right behind this window were the 2 radars. Those are your eyes. Without your eyes, there's definitely no way that you can see any icebergs. And I was lucky that I was not standing at my normal spot behind the chart table. Otherwise, the glass would have been right in my face. Everybody was quite tense. A lot of them were scared. I was joking.
Well, as long as you're with the Flying Dutchman,
We're safe.
And I think that helped them a lot. There were moments that I told myself, God, I hope this is over soon and I hope we get out of this safely.
The crewmen have to go out on the deck and board up the broken window to keep more seawater from pouring in.
They had to use lifelines. But still with lifelines, if a big wave comes over, maybe you weren't washed over the side, but you could still be smashed against the superstructure of the ship and hurt you very badly. But there was nothing else we could do. We had to send out people in order to survive, all of us.
Second mate Mike Horton is one of the volunteers.
So one thing that really sticks out in my mind going out on the deck that day to repair the window was that I guess maybe every minute and a half I'd get hit with a big slug of seawater. I never felt seawater that cold before in my life. It would just chill you to the bone. What I thought of the most was a big wall of water hitting me, just squashing me against the wall. Breaking both your legs or arms or something like that. Or possibly even then, you know, rinsing me off the deck.
Whoa, hang on.
After a 3-hour struggle, the men come in from the howling storm. Mission accomplished.
Oh, Mike, good job.
And the fierce winds begin to abate. Now the crew ventures onto the deck to survey the destruction. Debris is everywhere. A lifeboat is cracked and useless.
Sure glad that's not my boat.
that's the captain's boat.
A ladder is bent beyond recognition.
The paint locker that was secured to the deck, 15 tons, that one was totally wrecked.
Oh man, was that a mess. It was just everywhere. It caved in the whole side of this 20-foot steel container. Just completely smashed it.
As the ship limps back to the port of Halifax, everyone realizes how close they'd come to tragedy.
There's not really much romance about being in a storm. I think we can all say that we were very lucky that we survived. Yes, we were lucky.
The North Sea is a place of tragic legend, of men setting sail, never to return. Coxswain Hewitt Clark has faced and survived this danger for 30 years, rushing to rescue sailors from the North Sea's icy grasp. As coxswain, or captain, he pilots the Royal National Rescue Ship Mary and Jane Vernon. She's one of a fleet of what are called lifeboats, available at a moment's notice. These lifeboats are extremely rugged and very maneuverable, capable of withstanding the punishing conditions of the North Sea. Here, off the northern coast of Scotland, the warm North Atlantic current meets cold water from the north. Tides and winds contribute to what the locals call confused seas, with tides and currents coming at all angles. North Sea shipping is vital to Europe's economy. And that most valuable commodity, oil, is plentiful beneath the waters offshore. Many environmental disasters have been caused by these treacherous waters.
I've been to ships before on the rocks and you could just hear them tearing apart.
It's November 1997. Coxswain Clark scans the horizon for signs of a brewing storm. His lifeboat plies the waters off the Shetland Islands, 200 miles north of Scotland. Oceanographer Bill Patzert knows the North Sea can best even the most able seamen.
During the winter, the North Atlantic tends to be one of the most violent for weather of all the oceans. the very cold, dry air that comes off the Canadian continent. It's so dry and so cold, it just captures moisture out of the North Atlantic and really gets fueled up with moisture and heat. The result are these very powerful storms that make their way into the North Sea.
It's in these conditions that the engines of the Green Lily, a local cargo ship, suddenly fail. High seas push the fishing vessel toward the jagged Shetland coastline a few miles away. There are 15 men stranded on board. Coxswain Clark and his rescue crew scramble into action. As the lifeboat heads out, a Coast Guard helicopter hovers above the Green Lily. A tugboat tries to keep the crippled ship from crashing into the rocky shore. Captain Laurie Johnson is at the tug's helm.
So it was blowing a full gale from the southeastern, which tends to increase the sea effect. Knew there was men on board the ship, and once that ship hit the beach, it was going to break up very, very quickly.
After 30 minutes of plowing through stormy seas and massive waves, Coxswain Clark's lifeboat arrives on the scene.
When we arrived, it was a very heavy sea. It was just the poor conditions.
They watch as the tugboat struggles to attach a steel cable called the towing gear to the cargo ship and pull her away from the rocks that are now less than a mile away. It's a tricky procedure.
You've got to get close to pass the towing gear. There's all an element of danger. You don't ever want the two vessels to come into contact. You could have serious damage to both.
Vital minutes slip by. At last, the tug manages to attach the towing gear. Breaking swells make the job increasingly dangerous. In shallow waters like these, waves break high and fast. As a wave moves toward shore, it grows steeper and steeper, until the crest spills over with tremendous weight and momentum. The breaking waves are pulling the tugboat and the cargo ship apart, straining the cable that connects them. Finally, it snaps. The tugboat captain, Laurie Johnson, reports the bad news to the lifeboat.
There's nothing more we can do. I guess it's a serious situation.
Now, nothing can stop the ship from drifting onto the rocks. It's up to the lifeboat to move in and save the crew.
Well, I've been on lots of jobs in worse weather, but not to go alongside and take people off in that conditions. I will approach the ship now. I will attempt to come alongside. You must have your crew down on the deck now. The sea is throwing you one way and pulling you the next, and the ship is rolling. It's very difficult to get the boat placed exactly where you want it.
In the moments that the two decks are close, the lifeboat crew pulls a man aboard. This is repeated 5 times until a huge wave crashes on the deck.
And that's when I decided it was too dangerous. I decided that we had done all we could do, unfortunately.
With only minutes left before the ship runs aground, a last lift effort is launched from the chopper, which has been hovering overhead. But as the lifeboat circles nearby, they hear over the radio that a rescue worker who'd been lowered from the chopper has been swept into the sea. The sea has claimed the victim.
It's a very sad experience. You know you can't do anything for them. It was just horrifying. It was dreadful.
On arrival back to shore, the rescue crew finds solace in the fact that 15 lives were saved. But as the Green Lily breaks up on the rocks, all hands involved in the rescue are reminded once more that the sea that provides their livelihoods can exact a heavy price.
It's a very thin line between success and failure. And suddenly this happens and you realise you can't be successful every time.
You've got to respect the sea. If mistakes are made, you could be very severely punished.
More than half the oil consumed on Earth is transported over the world's oceans in tankers like the Katina P, headed round the tip of Africa in April of 1992. Most of the world's 3,500 oil tankers are the pinnacle of modern shipbuilding. But like all ships, they have an Achilles heel.
A ship is definitely strong and rigid in a sense, but it's not strong and rigid in the same way that a bridge across a river would be, in that the ship is supported throughout its length by the water. If that support is removed, part of the hull is unsupported or insufficiently supported, then stresses that go onto the fabric of the hull can be too much for it to withstand, and it will break.
Loaded with 66,000 tons of heavy fuel oil, the Katina P is headed for some of the wildest waters of maritime legend, where three of the world's great oceans, the Atlantic, the Indian, and the Antarctic, collide. Their meeting can be catastrophic. The world's worst tanker disaster occurred here in 1983, spilling 7 times more oil than the Exxon Valdez. David Tinmuth assesses oil tanker damage for Penta Marine in Cape Town, South Africa. His family has worked on the sea for countless generations.
The Cape itself is known as the Cape of Storms for good reason. In the winter months, you get very severe storms occurring off the coast. Strong winds, which build up the swells. It is a bad area itself for storms.
High latitude winds in the southern hemisphere can be fierce. So fierce that mariners crossing the southern latitudes call them the Roaring 40s, Furious 50s, and Screaming 60s. These winds push tremendous waves. Colliding with these wind-whipped waves, indicated here by white arrows, is one of the world's great currents. This current is driven by the gyre of the Indian Ocean and is marked here with a red arrow.
Currents oppose the very, very strong waves being generated by the strong winds. And what they'll do is they'll steepen these giant waves. In extreme circumstances, we can get waves as high as 80 to 100 feet. And these are what we call the killer waves of the Antarctic.
Tankers and other long ships can be badly damaged by these rogue or freak waves.
Oil tankers, in some ways, they're even more vulnerable than the smaller ships.
If a huge trough opened up under the bow of the ship, so the bow was basically jutting out into the air, then the structure might be unable to withstand the forces and it would break.
Now, Inspector Tinmuth gets urgent word that one of these killer waves may have hit the Katina P.
And a call came through from the Cape Town office that there was a ship in distress off the North KwaZulu coast.
Tinmuth, on board a helicopter, is headed for the stricken ship. Its crew has dropped anchor and abandoned ship in fear for their lives. But while the crew is safe and the seas are calm, oil is already leaking.
The vessel itself could be seen to be listing to starboard and deep in the water. There was severe damage to the midships of the vessel. we decided that we needed to get on board and ascertain much closer the damage.
Once on board, David begins to evaluate the damage and the possibility of transferring the oil off the ship.
We're looking at Mussery 3 centre, cracked by the winch midships. Looks like we've got stress on the bulkhead.
It was pure nerves. You just did not know what condition the ship had been in before. Was it now ready to sink? The helicopter had taken off and returned to Maputo, so if anything had gone wrong at the time, we would have been all alone.
It's buckling all the way across onto the port side.
For an area of about 10 metres, the deck was just rippled, which indicated again that the vessel was actually sagging. That is, it was bending downwards. It was under stress.
Tinmouth decides a ship-to-ship oil transfer must be attempted. But first, the buckling tanker needs to be towed 200 miles further out to sea to lessen potential environmental damage. One of the largest salvage tugs in the world, the John Ross begins the long and delicate journey. Placing their lives on the line, Tinmouth and a crew of 6 remain on board to prepare the transfer.
5 days out, the damage on the ship was still extending. The buckling in the deck on the port side was actually getting worse.
Definitely a lot more movement in the deck.
Or your mind races on every single possibility. Ship going down, you're getting sucked down by it. Your life jacket's near your bed. You really don't sleep at night.
In the early dawn hours, David is sleepless with concern when the situation goes from worse to disastrous.
And there was a dull, loud bang. It was like a door being slammed in the background.
He goes to investigate, making his way to midship.
I maybe had gone 10 meters when there was a almighty thud. And then the deck just gave way. It actually buckled. It went banana shaped. The vessel was breaking up as we stood there. Natural reaction then was to just run. I raced into the accommodation, shouting, "Abandon ship, the ship's going to go down, it's going to flood."
Tinmouth flees to a vessel alongside the tanker, shouting at his men to hurry.
Come on, Cameron. Come on, let's get a few men in there, man. Get men in.
You could see the water creeping up the decks as she was settling in. The ship goes under, you always worry that maybe you're going to get sucked down.
I'll just get this guy to get away from her, to be honest, because when she goes down, there's a lot of sucker.
We're right alongside the Katina P, and the oil was just spurting out 5 meters into the air, just pure crude oil. You could smell it. The sea was 2 meters thick in oil. And as far as we could see, as far as the eye could see, on the horizon, there was just oil. It was just a horrendous sight.
16 million gallons of crude are flowing from the sinking tanker. The incident is one of 26 tanker spills to occur on the world's oceans this particular year. As the oil reaches the shores of Mozambique, an environmental disaster is declared. Fishing waters and mangrove swamps are contaminated. Only the swiftness of the Agulhas current, carrying some oil away from shore, protects the coast from catastrophe. Safely back on board the supertug, the salvage experts witness a once-in-a-lifetime sight, the death throes of an oil tanker.
The angle of the deck just got greater and greater. You could see that the vessel was still connected. It was looking like a banana. The angle from 20, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, 50 degrees, then she slowly went under the water. There was a spurt of spray as the air was expelled at the sea level. And then she completely went under. It's a sad feeling for, I think, any mariner to see a ship go down, whether it's your ship or somebody else's ship. It's just the way that mariners are. A ship is like a home to you.
Mariners know when they venture out to sea that they are afloat and alone where storms are born. That when the oceans turn ferocious, their safety cannot be guaranteed.
There's one element here that sailors at sea are always vulnerable to, and this is the unknowable. The rogue wave, the particularly violent storm, that really is quite unpredictable.
Never underestimate the sea, never underestimate the elements. And you always have to keep in mind that the elements can get out of control.